What a great morning it is. You know, sometimes you have good mornings, sometimes you have bad mornings, but sometimes you have great mornings. And those great mornings feature Periscope and delicious coffee. Come in, everybody. We have so much to talk about. So much. Lift your beverage. Here we go. Ooh. Coffee goes well with presidential tweets. Am I wrong? All right. Well, I don't know about the rest of you, but I believe the president has given himself his new forever name. Now, very stable genius, 3 words, is a little bit of a mouthful. But try this acronym on. POTUSVSG. Yeah, wait till you see it written down. I just tweeted it. Hashtag POTUSVSG. Well, let's talk about this tweet. You all know what I'm talking about by now. The president has responded to the boy who cried wolf. His name is Michael Wolf. And he cried that the president is crazy. Everybody says the president is just a big baby. And he did all of that, Michael Wolf did, while looking and sounding exactly like Dr. Evil, but with glasses. So, how does a president respond when somebody says he's crazy and that he's stupid? What do? You're kind of, everybody in the world is saying crazy, stupid president, crazy, stupid president. Now, you can't just go out and say, here's what you shouldn't say. I'm not crazy. Mistake. That would be a persuasion mistake. Here's another persuasion mistake. I'm not stupid. Nope, don't say that. If I've taught you anything, it's that people don't hear the not word in a sentence. They feel the big themes. So if you say, I, Scott Adams, am not stupid, then all anybody hears is your name and the word stupid. Those are the dominant concepts in the sentence. So you never say you're not something once you've been accused of being something. How many people in the world know to handle it the way the president did? It is persuasion perfection. Is he a genius? Well, I don't know if he could beat all of us in chess. I don't know if he could beat most of you on the SATs, on the math section. Probably a lot of you are pretty good with math. I'm guessing you do pretty well. There are a lot of forms of genius. Some people say there's a musical genius, there's a mathematical genius, there's a verbal genius, there's a social genius. Perhaps there's a political genius as well. But there is definitely a persuasion genius. And these last tweets, which I will read for those who have not read them themselves, these are genius. And what I mean by that is that almost nobody that you can imagine would have responded to these attacks, which are very effective, by the way. I would say the quality of the anti-Trumpers' attacks got really good, and they haven't been this good since... When was the last time the anti-Trumpers had attacks that were this powerful? The whole he's crazy, he's stupid thing. When was the last? Yep, Dark. You remember Dark? Dark was the work of, I believe, professional cognitive scientists, not just politicians throwing out insults. But when you saw the word dark applied to the president a year and a half ago, that was some serious persuasion. Now we're seeing this Michael Wolf book, and it's not clear to me that there's necessarily a cognitive scientist behind the current attacks. It could be that they lucked into it just through sort of accidental A/B testing plus the Michael Wolff book. But this is the new attack. You see, they've dropped Hitler, they've dropped ineffective because he didn't do Hitler stuff and he wasn't ineffective. So they need something else that's both imaginary and hard to prove, but you could believe it anyway. And so the Michael Wolff book, what was genius about it, and you're gonna love or hate this next idea. I've been telling you for 2 years that facts don't matter to decisions. Facts do, of course, matter to your outcomes, but our human brains do not really process facts and use them along with reason to make decisions. We just don't. We just think we do. That's our grand illusion of life, is that we think we're rational. And so I've been saying for 2 years straight that it would be hard to beat the president because he's not operating on the same dimension that the rest of the world is. They're stuck in their little world of where the facts must be influencing decisions. He knows that's not true. Facts do not influence our decisions and never have and never will. So instead of doing what he knows won't work, which is sticking to the facts, the very stable genius President of the United States does not stick to the facts for one genius reason. Facts don't persuade. You want a good example of that? It's called the Michael Wolff book, Fire and Fury. We now know beyond any doubt that at least a lot of the facts, we don't know which ones exactly, but we have an idea about a lot of them. We know that a lot of the facts in that book are literally just made up. They are not facts. How persuasive is the Michael Wolff book? Really, really persuasive. Okay? I don't always say this about the anti-Trump side. I said it when they came out with Dark, and I'm pretty sure I was right about that. But this latest thing, the Michael Wolff book, which becomes the focus for the anti-Trumpers now. They have something to look at, to, try to hang their hat on a little bit. The thing that makes it powerful is that it's clearly not true. That's why it works. If I've taught you anything, it's that when things are beyond believable, that's when you can't get them out of your head. And the thing that makes things beyond believable is that they didn't happen. The best way to make something that sounds like it's impossible that it could have happened is to actually make something up. And that's what Michael Wolff apparently did. Let me give you the best example. Geraldo talked about this on Fox News yesterday, but it's the best example, so I'll just reuse it. He said that in the book, that Michael Wolff, and then in interviews, I guess he said this, so more in the interview than in the book. Michael Wolff said that to a person, according to Michael Wolff, 100% of the people he talked to who are close to the president, including family members, say that he is mentally incompetent for the job. Now, you don't need to dig too much deeper to know that that's not true. Okay? It might be true that people said bad things about the president, and that would be true for 100% of presidents. Right? If you went behind the scenes for every president, you would find all kinds of people who said, that he's an idiot, he's doing everything wrong, he's focusing on the wrong things, he's a sellout. There's no leader at that level that you can't find lots of people to say bad shit about. But the part that makes it clearly unbelievable, meaning it didn't happen, is that he said 100% of the people he talked to said that their own president, the people they worked for, the people who would be fired if it came out in the book, talked on the record and said that their boss was mentally incompetent. That, my friends, did not happen. It did not happen. Right? You don't have to be a genius to know that none of that happened. Of course, there are people who criticize the president. Now, here's the reason that people will criticize the president. Do you know why people say their boss is stupid? Who is the expert in the world about calling their boss stupid? In the entire planet Earth, the whole planet, and the history of humankind, who is the world's expert on calling bosses stupid? Me. Literally my job for about 30 years is dealing with this world in which the employees think their boss is stupid. One of the reasons that you think your boss is stupid is because they do stupid things. The other reason, and the far more common reason, is that your boss knows more than you do, so you don't understand why your boss is doing what your boss is doing. Almost always, when an employee calls the boss stupid, it's because the employee doesn't have all the variables. They either know less, or they are less intelligent than their boss. So they say, well, the boss is stupid because he's doing what I wouldn't do. Let me ask you this. I'm assuming that there were, in fact, people, in the White House who said negative things about Trump. You have to assume that some of that's true because he's a boss and every boss has negative things said about him. Why do you think those people disagreed with what he was saying and doing? It's because it's not what they would say and do, right? So people are wrong when they don't do and say the things that you would do and say in their position. That's how you judge that they're wrong. You can't independently judge that they're smart or not. Now let me ask you this. How many people on the president's staff could have done what he did, which is run for president and win without political experience? How many people were smart enough to know that all of that tweeting was not just not a bad idea, but was a frickin' great idea? Like one of the greatest ideas ever in politics is the tweeting, all right? So I'm getting a little off my main point here, so let me pull it back. So if you're the president and you've got this super high quality persuasion that's hitting you hard, and it's the new, it looks like it's going to be the 2018 theme, right? They do a theme every 6 months or so, every year. So last year was Hitler, and then it moved to incompetent, and now it's going to move to full out, mental illness. Now the reason that that's dangerous is that President Trump, in the normal course of the way he operates, will do plenty of things that his opponents will say, well, that was crazy. Or he misused a word there. That must be Alzheimer's. So the opportunity for confirmation bias to jump in and keep telling you, well, everybody's been saying he's crazy, and he did that thing that I don't understand and I wouldn't have done, must be crazy. So that's what makes this such a good attack, is that you will see tons of confirmation bias to support it. It's guaranteed because it's just his normal personality, gives you lots of opportunity for that. Now, so what does the president do? You can't simply deny the claim. You can't just say, I'm not stupid, I'm not crazy. Because you know who says I'm not stupid and I'm not crazy? People who are stupid, people who are crazy. That's two groups of people who think they're not stupid and not crazy. So he couldn't do that. So what does he do? What does he do when he's locked into a trap and he can't get out? What do you do when it's impossible to get out of the box that your enemies have painted you into? Well, what you do is something they really didn't expect. And who is better than doing things his enemies didn't expect? And man, I'm not sure I expected this, but let me read it to you, because it's just wonderful. It's just wonderful. All right. So it's 3-part tweet. Let's see. Sorry. I have to get these in order. 3 tweets. Number 1, from Donald J. Trump, POTUSVSG. Now that Russian collusion, after 1 year of intense study, has proven to be a total hoax on the American public, the Democrats and their lapdogs, the fake news mainstream media, are taking out the old Ronald Reagan playbook and screaming mental stability and intelligence. And by the way, that is exactly what they're doing. This is the Ronald Reagan attack playbook. Tweet number 2, continuing. ... Actually, throughout my life, my 2 greatest assets have been mental stability and being, really smart. We'll get back to that. Crooked Hillary Clinton also played these cards very hard and, as everyone knows, went down in flames. I went from very successful businessman to top TV star to President of the United States on my first try. I think that would qualify as not smart, but genius, ... and a very stable genius at that. Could I love this more? I could not. I could not love this more. I am loving this at the maximum that my love can generate. Let's go through why this is genius. As Mark, I think Mark is here, commented ahead of me because he's been paying attention. So what the president has done as his response is he's first of all thrown lots of chum into the news cycle, which he does well. That part is just business as usual. He dominates the news cycle by putting things in his frame. But here's the very best part. He's making you think past the sale of genius by saying he's a very stable one. So it's much more powerful to, instead of say, I'm a genius, you say, I'm a very stable genius, because it makes you think past, do I buy the car, that decision, to, do I want the red one or the blue one? Well, is he a stable genius or an unstable genius? But I've already sort of uncritically accepted the genius part. Now here's the thing. What will his critics do now that he's made this provocative, offensive defense? So this is defense played as offense. All right, this is pure offense, but it serves as defense to keep his critics, in his cycle. He is going to make every critic in the world sarcastically, and let me pause for a moment. Who are the most sarcastic people in the country? The most sarcastic people in the country are the critics of President Trump. They are sarcastic because they don't understand how humor works. People who don't understand humor think that sarcasm, if used in any form, is actually sort of humor, and they think they're doing it when they do sarcasm. So watch how many times in the next year you're going to hear some version of this tweet. Well, here comes another decision from our genius president. Oh, wait, hold on. You know what we need? This requires the goatee. I would now like to do my impression of the near future in which every anti-Trumper tries to use their sarcasm in replace of humor, because they can't do humor, but they can do sarcasm. That's sort of like the child's version of humor. And what they will say every time the president makes a decision, it doesn't matter what topic or what the decision. It goes like this. Well, there's your genius. Oh, that's a very stable genius. Oh, look at that, President Trump. Is this your genius? Hey, Scotty, is that your genius? Is that the genius you're talking about, Scotty? Hey, Scotty, is that your genius? All right, you're going to see that for a year. And every time they say it, they're going to use the president's name or refer to him or think about him and they're going to use the word genius. Can they help themselves? No. That's the genius part. The genius part is that when you call yourself a genius in public, everybody has to use the word. They can't not use the word. They're going to use the word. All right? They don't want to use the word. They might try to go around it, but they can't not use the word. He owns the word. For the rest of President Trump's entire life on this planet, the word genius will be paired with him both by his supporters and his critics. He just made that happen. Can't change it now. Now, if it turns out he really goes crazy, all bets are off. But so far, if we were to judge by the quality of these tweets, I can tell you that the mainstream media will not understand what they just saw, and they will say, not only let me augment the beard. He called himself a genius. He's not only a genius, but he's a narcissist. He's a dangerous narcissist because he called himself a genius in a tweet. So they may have to back up to that narcissist thing because he called himself a genius. But the fact is, I am a bit of an expert in this category. All right, I do communicate with the public in short sentences for a living, and the marketplace has decided that I'm good at it. So I can't judge, for example, the president's math skills. I can't judge that. I've never seen him. I'm not an expert at math anyway. I can't judge some of his political opinions. I don't know what to do with TPP exactly. A lot of things I can't judge. But there is one thing I'm going to claim expertise at. I believe I am an expert, and you fact check me if you like, on the writing of short, funny sentences that get their point across. Would you all agree that based on my track record as the creator of Dilbert and, a writer of some success, that you would call me an expert in this narrow field of writing short, clever sentences that get your point across? Will you give me that? All right. In my opinion, as an expert in this narrow field of writing short, effective sentences, this, my friends, is genius. What you're seeing is absolutely genius. Now, the fact that he layered genius, actual genius, execution genius, on top of this technique, which will pair in people's mind the word genius and Trump forever, it's just genius, And what is the funniest part? Do you know how many people are going to mock me for saying that he's genius? Because you know that somebody's going to retweet this. They're going to take this Periscope, or they're going to take a quote out of it, and they're going to say this. Well, the Dilbert guy says he's a genius, so it must be true. Or they'll say, well, the guy who does Garfield thinks the president's a genius. I'm convinced. So expect to see that. Yes, and I also think he gave himself a forever name. You were right. So I think very stable genius is a bit of a mouthful, but I hope I helped him out a little bit, because the hashtag POTUSVSG, you have to admit that's a keeper. Give me some feedback here. POTUSVSG, keeper or not? let me see if it's trending yet. I tweeted it the moment I got on here, so I'm going to look for POTUSVSG. I might be the only person in the world who's used it so far. All right, checking. Oh, it looks like POTUSVSG is very popular already. Yeah, POTUSVSG looks like quite a few hits here. Actually, a lot of them are from the same person, though, so not a lot of hits yet, but we'll see. Please address the part where he said like. So, one of the geniuses of this president's communication style is that he matches the style of the people he's talking to. And here he is being so folksy and casual that it just jumps out at you how casual it is. Clearly he knows. So here's the best part. I think we could all agree that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, does know that the word like is not a word that is useful, and you certainly would never add an extra word like comma, like, comma, in a tweet unless you were making fun of a Valley Girl, right? It simply doesn't belong there, which is why it belongs there. It belongs there because you can't take your eyes away from it. It binds him to the people. So this is what he does with this kind of verbal, what would you call it? It's almost like a verbal accessory, because it's not the main point, but he tricks out his tweets with these little ticks that are actually really good. Because it's hard to look at this and think that he's an elite, right? I think you're going to see him trying to put some distance between the people, of which he is one of us, or as he would say, the president is, comma, like, comma, one of us, versus the mainstream media, who are a bunch of intellectuals who have not yet figured that the difference in the gap between their intelligence and the president's, it is a pretty big gap, but it's not in the direction they hope it is, if you know what I mean. You also notice the visual persuasion. So I'm looking back at his tweet, and he says, the old Ronald Reagan playbook. Playbook, you actually imagine the playbook, a visual thing. And screaming mental instability. These are words from the president's latest tweets. So screaming mental instability instead of just thinking it. Screaming is a visual, right? And let's see. He said Hillary Clinton played these cards. Cards are visual. She went down in flames. Flames are visual. And then he reminds us of his. Now, how many times have I told you that somebody who has done these three things, successful business person, famous TV star, and then president of the United States on his first try, how many times have I gone through that list and said, who else can do that, right? If that's not a sign of talent, what else is? Now, I've been saying for a long time that Trump's genius is invisible to even smart people for a very good reason. That part of his genius is that he has what I call a talent stack, which is he's real good at a whole bunch of things that work well together. One of the things that he's good at is humor. He's good at humor, he's good at matching people, he's good at persuasion, he's good at, dominating a conversation, and on and on and on. He's good at handling shame, he's good at risk, he's good at strategy, negotiating, you could just keep going. And if you took any one of those talents, you'd say, well, he's not the funniest person I've ever seen, or he's not the best negotiator I've ever seen in my life. But man, you can't find somebody who's got all of that in the same package. Yeah, he doesn't have humility, you're right. But he also doesn't value it. Bootlicker. Hillary's house was in flames. Yeah, they just said Hillary Clinton went down in flames at the same time that her house actually went up in flames. Yeah. Hillary's house went up the way she went down. Could demented Donald work? Yeah, I don't know. It's not that clever in my opinion. So look for every one of the president's critics to fall headlong into his trap today. The trap, of course, being that they will say, no, Donald Trump is not a genius. He's definitely not a genius. We don't think he's a genius. Until the words genius and President Trump are locked together in your mind. All right, so everybody use your hashtags today. POTUSVSG. Sounds like a TV show. Sounds like something on CBS, doesn't it? Some of you are saying you've got a frozen screen, but everything's good on my end, so I think the freezing might be on your end. What do you think about watching the fake news awards on Monday together? Anybody want me to Periscope during the fake news awards? Some of you got frozen? Okay. It was you. All right, so some of you had to refresh to get unfrozen, apparently. All right, so I don't know what my calendar is tomorrow. I think I'm available. So we will do a little periscoping during the fake news awards tomorrow. I believe that they are at 5 Eastern. So if you're in California, 2 p.m. All right, so I will sign on for those. Make sure you have your TV on because I don't want you to have to listen to my TV through the Periscope. I know everybody's going to yell at me and say, turn up your TV. Well, I'll probably have to. Yeah, who is covering the fake news awards? Is he doing the fake news awards and then letting all the networks cover it? Or is he just doing it on one network? Yeah, so it's Monday at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock Eastern time are the fake news awards. Will it be genius periscoping? Of course. By the way, I'm going to give you a little, let's see, not a quiz, a challenge. There was someone else, a famous person, who used the same method that President Trump is using right now to claim he is a genius so that his critics will continuously mock him for not being a genius. Someone else did that. And I want you to see if you can come up with who did that. And get back to me on that. All right? It's not the first time you've seen this trick. There's someone else who did this trick. Someone very persuasive. All right, and that's all for now. Enjoy your beverages. Enjoy your day. If there's more news today, I might get back on. Okay, Bye.